everyone, and glad you could be with me. Just a brief conversation on a topic which is pretty important, I think, and that is in relation to refugees being returned to Australia. Now, we need to note that most of the people that we're referring to here are women and children, varying age for the children, because a lot of those children were basically raised in captivity, I guess, and many of them probably, or some of them at least, are in their teens. There is a concern about the degree to which these children have been radicalised, and I appreciate that that is certainly probably the case. We don't know. I haven't been there. You haven't been there. We don't know what these particular people have suffered and how they have been traumatised by the events. We also, I think, need to be aware that a lot of the women, in fact, most of the women, I think, as I understand it, have come to be in these camps because either their partners have died or they have been left because their partners have been fighting and have been captured. And as a result, they are left in limbo. Now, the question really for all of us is that as Australians, is it appropriate that we return Australians back to Australia when they've been in these types of situations? And I think there's a compelling argument to suggest that there is. Firstly, it needs to be noted that in our Constitution, it states that if you are an Australian citizen, then no matter where you are in the world, you should be returned back to your country. So, as such, they definitely should be returned back to Australia. I think that it's really important too that we note that they may not themselves have been seconded, agreed to travelling to Afghanistan or Syria or wherever they might have found themselves to fight, with their partners wanting to fight for ISIS. Many of them were only children themselves when they were taken, sent overseas with their partners, coerced by their partners to go overseas because they themselves, I would imagine, were quite ignorant, didn't understand what they were getting into, perhaps sort of saw it as exciting. And perhaps some of those young people, as the partners of these fighters, were themselves children and consequently were found to be, I guess coerced is the best word I can think of, forced, if you like, in some ways, to travel to some of these countries. Now, there has been some kickback or pushback against all of this, particularly coming from certain aspects of our political spectrum, whereby some members of the Labor Party have insisted that this is a case whereby we need to be mindful of and need to protect ourselves from these dangerous women and these dangerous children because we're not too sure how they've been radicalised while they've been there. Well, I guess that's a reasonable argument because we don't know. But there again, I guess fair enough, they don't know either. So why in the hell are they telling us that they think that they have the answers to all this when they don't? Security services do, because this is the area in which they specialise. And I'm sure that if some of these women and children were so radicalised that they were a distinct threat to our community, then they wouldn't be brought back. I think it's quite that simple, and I'm sure that there's been due diligence and the work has been done in order to have conversations with them to identify the degree of radicalisation. So one of the things I just want to raise is that Michaela Cash, God bless her soul, what a wonderful and inspiring woman she is. Well, she's come out, of course, with that version of events which says that, perhaps they shouldn't be brought back. It is to be noted, though, that the Labor Party have returned some people back to Australia from some of these regions in the past. But now, of course, because, number one, the Liberal Party are doing it, the Labor Party are doing that. I don't know whether I said Liberal or Labor before, but Michaela Cash and Morrison brought some people back. But now the Labor Party have chosen to do it. Of course, it's got to be wrong. And and that there's this stuff about these people being extremely radicalized. So there's an article in the Guardian, which I've put the link down below for those people who want to check out the article. Government says process was informed by national security advice, individual assessments, and detailed work by security agencies. So I guess we can assume that due diligence has been done. But what they're saying now is that full responsibility for whatever happens now is up to the government. The Albanese government must assume full responsibility if there is any risk to Australians from repatriating women and children from Syrian camps after the fall of Islamic State. She says the former Attorney General made the remarks following the return of 4 Australian women and 13 children to Sydney on Saturday. So this is about, I think, the right-wing fear-mongering and endeavouring to show to ostracise these women and children who are, on all accounts, innocent bystanders in this event, particularly the children. And surely they should be able to return home, get the education that they need, and to live in a safe and secure environment, which is what we provide. To suggest that they're going to be provide a security risk to the rest of the community, I think, is a bit absurd. On Sunday, the government leader in the House, Tony Burke, told Channel 9 that a lot of the people we're talking about here are children, and some of the women were tricked into terms of their own personal circumstances. And I think that's so true. So Cash, now the Shadow Workplace Relations Minister, told Sky News it was fundamental that the government must always do what is in the national interest and in the best interest of Australians. These people understood when they left Australia, they made a decision, and the decision would have consequences. Well, as I said before, did they know that they were making this sort of decision? Were they mature enough to be able to do so, and were they coerced into doing so? So, and the other thing I think that's really interesting here, that fundamental that the government must always do what is in the national interest and the best interest of Australians. Can I just point out to Cash here that these people are Australian citizens, that they have as much right to be here as anyone else, and that the degree to which supposedly they've been radicalised, who knows what that is. But, you know, we can work to unradicalise them, if you like. And I think that's our duty, and I'm sure that the security agencies will be doing just that. So let us know what you think below. Should we be returning these people? Should we feel safe or unsafe with these women and children back in our communities? Do you have any sense of empathy or sympathy for these women and children? Let me know below. And before you go, I just need to say make sure that you subscribe and you ring the bell so you can get further notifications on any of the videos I post. And if you've got any requests or want to have a chat to me about anything, I suggest you email me on that thing below. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. Take care. Look after yourselves. And more importantly, be safe.